What a weird development that is going on from San Diego Comic-Con. I would have never guessed this pairing of figures. What am I talking about exactly? So San Diego Comic-Con announced a bunch of their exclusives that they're going to be releasing over the next, releasing news-wise over the next couple of weeks leading up to the show itself. And they released it's a 3-pack related to the upcoming Bumblebee movie, but the way this thing is put together, it is so confusing. And I mean, I'm kind of happy about it. It's pretty cool. It's something that I always kind of want to happen when it relates to Generation 1 molds. But so what am I talking about exactly? So they did this is called the Transformers Bumblebee Retro Rock Garage 3-pack SDCC exclusive. And what they did is it comes in a nice fancy box that's has a slip cover, and it has Movie Bumblebee on the cover, but the Movie Bumblebee on the cover is the older Movie Bumblebee, not the new Volkswagen one. And it slides open, and it has a little tape cassette thing and like a boom box, and it opens up, and it has a repaint of the recent Studio Series Camaro Bumblebee, the old school Camaro, done in more of a gold kind of sheen plastic. But it also comes with 2 G1 molds, original G1 molds, but not just any original G1 molds. 2 G1 mold cassettes, but not just any 2 G1 mold cassettes. They pulled out from the archives of Japan 2 of the rarest Transformer toys of all time. Some of the rarest. Like if I had to make like a list of like the top 10 most expensive G1 toys ever made, they make it on that list. What this is you get Dino-Cassette Dial and Dino-Cassette Saur. Now, who are those exactly? So, for Americans, they're familiar with Soundwave's Dino-Cassettes. He had Overkill and Slugfest, and that was pretty much it from Dino-Cassettes, 2 Decepticon Dino-Cassettes that came out in 1987. But on the Japanese side of things, when the Headmaster cartoon was rolling and everything, they made a set of 4 Dino-Cassettes. And those Dino-Cassettes were Autobots. They were brand new molds. They were essentially released because Blaster was going to have his new toy Twincast, which was his new blue repaint. And they were like, well, let's make some new cassettes to kind of like, be stuff to buy on the side to accompany this new toy now, which is really just an old toy. It's just a repaint of Blaster. So they released 4 Dino-Cassettes. These 4 Dino-Cassettes had an extremely limited run even in Japan. They didn't really, get a lot of traction over there. You compare it to a lot of other Headmaster exclusive toys, like let's say Raiden or certain other, like the smaller individual Headmasters that also have a very difficult market. But the point is that these 4 cassettes sold individually went for insane money in the secondary market. And we're talking like, Dial or Saur just on their own loose complete would bring upwards of $300 to $500, which is pretty crazy money for a little cassette. There's a mint carded, Ravage Rumble 2-pack or Ravage Frenzy 2-pack is not like $500, So these 2 little cassettes go for an insane amount of money. So they pulled out essentially these 2 molds from the archives of Takara, and they pulled out Dial and Saur, which specifically is, for people who aren't familiar, Saur was the one that was kind of like, I guess we could say a Brachiosaurus or a Brontosaurus, and Dial was the more, I don't know, let's say a raptor,
Okay.
And the crazy thing with these 2 cassettes is they got a slightly different paint augmentation. Specifically Saur, now he's like a clear kind of orange, where originally he wasn't that. I have these sets, and I mean, they're nothing like super spectacular. They're your typical like, cassette Transformers. Even from like an engineering standpoint, there's nothing like super crazy about them, but it's cool that these reissues, they're not just straight up reissues, that they're actually slight changes from the originals. So even people who have made the plunge like me and own the originals and other like hardcore collectors, they could still pick these up and get something new out of it. and I appreciate it because now other people will be able to finally enjoy these molds.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's the one thing I've always been is like it's the same thing with Minerva. Like I have Minerva, and you know, as a collector, I don't own Transformers and worry about its its aftermarket value if ever I didn't want it. I don't think about that. I always want people to be able to experience those molds. And I've always wondered why Minerva, you know, she's this big, expensive Transformer, why Takara has never reissued it. You know, there's such a huge market for those expensive Transformers. You could take advantage of that. I know, like, again, a good example, Stepper. The Black Jazz, he for the longest time before that reissue, he was this extremely rare, hard to get G1 Target Master. Then they he used to go for, I would have to say, like in the early days of eBay of like, let's say 98, 99, 2000, he was going for upwards of $400 to $500.
Oh,
yeah, well, that's why. And then
makes me happy that I got mine, the reissue with the little booklet and getting it signed by Ono.
Yeah, and especially
wow.
What's crazy about that is then that reissue came out, specifically the one you had, and that like right away gave everyone an opportunity. But the thing with those reissues though, were they were like 1-for-1 perfect copies. You know what I mean? They're like, I mean, outside of like, you know, copyright stamps on it, there's no difference between that and the originals. So those ones, like in a lot of ways, a lot of people felt, oh, it damaged the market because, and then on top of that, after you got that one, the Japanese Takara Bookbox one, then America released it over here and they called it Ricochet.
Right.
And so like that extremely expensive, extremely hard to get mold, all of a sudden became plentiful in the modern era. And so it's this, you know, people are worrying about this here too. Like a lot, you know, I've seen the comments already within the high-end Transformer collecting community, and certain guys, you know, who have made that investment are pretty pissed. You know, they're like not happy about it. But I have a different take because as you know, as a guy, like I did a big review of Minerva's toy history on YouTube a couple of years ago, and I showed like how there's a few bootlegs of her mold that are out there. And I always tell people, like, I'm glad that those bootlegs exist because it gives people an opportunity, even if it's like, you know, $20 for like this Korean bootleg of Minerva, it still gives them an opportunity to own the mold and have something in their display. And, you know, they're not happy about it, but I'm cool with it. And I'm cool with it especially because also they're different colors slightly. You know, I mean, especially the Saur being the clear orange, that's really cool. So it's different from what I already own. You know, and I've always said this, reissues are reissues, but at the end of the day, if you try to sell your original, you know, Dino cassettes, the only people that are interested anyways are the hardcore of the hardcore. Yeah. And they'll make the investment if they feel it's worth it. You know what I mean? The people who buy reissues buy reissues. The people who buy, you know, the original, you know, Blessing from Takara Hasbro, they buy those. I'm one of those guys. I'm not a big reissue guy. I like to buy the original product. The only time I buy reissues is stuff like this, when it's a unique repaint, like when eHobby does crazy stuff. But, I mean, this is awesome.
I'm a bit more of the opposite. I would rather personally get the reissue if the reissue comes with more extra little goodies.
Oh, of course.
You know, just to beef up the value of what I'm buying. And if it's not a ludicrous amount.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like I said, there's people who have no problem owning the reissues. And that's the whole point, is that,
you know, I wouldn't flaunt it as being like, oh well, I have the real. It's like, no, it's the reissue. I know it is, but I like the mold that much to get the reissue. But yeah, like I said, everyone's very different.
Well, and I could understand that because, like, as a Transformer collector, I like to own the originals. But when I look at some other toy lines, right? Yeah. Like, if you told me you could own this original 1987 Ninja Turtle, and it's like it'll have all its accessories, but it's going to be like $40. But you could own the exact same thing, and it's the reissue, and it's going to have all the accessories, and you would not even know the difference outside of a date stamp, and it'll be $5. Yeah. I'll lean more towards that because, again, everyone has different priorities when it comes to their collecting, and even individuals like me, within different toy lines, I have different priorities too. So, like, and again, this is a great thing. The set is only going to cost $60, which in all honesty is pretty great. Comes in a fancy box. Studio Series stuff already is overpriced. So like I believe Studio Series is like $30 in Canada, and I believe it's $25 in the United States. So you're already halfway there just with the Bumblebee. And then you add the 2 super rare Dino cassettes, which, by the way, are like, you know, I don't even remember the last time. The last time we had G1 cassettes sold in the American market was probably, I want to say, the G1 Soundwave reissue, because I know the Blaster ended up in some stores, like, but that was a mistake. But yeah, like either way, like the last time that anyone was able to get G1 cassettes in American retail outside of, let's say, a Masterpiece was a long time ago. So this is really cool. This is really cool. $60, fancy box. You know, the Studio Series Bumblebee I haven't messed with, so I don't know about that. But those 2 cassettes I've messed with, they're pretty cool. Awesome piece of G1 history, and it gives people an opportunity to own something ridiculously rare. Yeah. I'm just before I end this, I'm just reminded of one more story, which was when I was working with Fun Publication and we were doing the subscription service, the 5.0, the very last subscription service that Fun Publication was going to do. One of the goals that I had was how could we get rare molds into the hands of collectors. The Megatron Pretender shell was the Pretender shell used with Grand Maximus. One of those, again, top 10 rarest G1, most expensive G1 Transformer toys. And so I asked them, I'm like, can we get that mold? And they're like, yeah, of course we can. It's, you know, they pulled it up recently because they were going to do an eHobby repaint and it didn't happen, blah, blah, blah. So I'm always for getting those rare molds into the hands of collectors, you know, whether it be through reissue or mild repaint. It's that way fans could enjoy it. That way they don't have to, like, you know, because I mean, I look at stuff like Black Zarek from 1988 Master Force. The toy, like 100% complete, is like $700, and it's a GPS nightmare. So it's it's like much. I would hate for someone who wants to enjoy a classic original Master Force toy only to like open it up and have to be extremely careful with it because it'll break. So it'd be nice, like, you know, hey, you reissue Minerva, you reissue these Dino cassettes, and you could, you know, for lack of better terms, mess with them and enjoy them and not have to worry about, oh my God, if like the arm falls off or breaks, I'm out $500, you know? So this is some cool stuff. Definitely I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to ask some of my SDCC connections to come around and hook me up if possible, because this is really cool. I dig the box too. It's just a nice little package.
Yeah, I like the little details of the. It looks like, you know, a cassette slipcover.
Yeah,
and it looks like it's a bit worn. That's the thing I like about it, and I do love that the little extra detail of, it's like a shelving unit that you open up and it comes out and you get all the little accessories and the cassettes at the bottom of that cassette.
Yeah,
like a little shelf. You know, a lot of engineering, a lot of good engineering in the packaging. I like
just
that.
For
I like
packaging,
when they go and they do that little extra bit. And even the box itself for the cassette, if you look on the top, you'll see like a little indentation that cassettes have, and then I guess like the empty window would kind of act as like, you know, sometimes some cassettes would have like a little empty groove in the middle on the top.
I agree.
So like a lot of details. I'm appreciative of this. I'm really, really am.
Yeah, it's awesome. If I have one complaint, it's just from a marketing standpoint. I'm just like, interesting that they're going with the old school design going into a Bumblebee movie in December. But I mean, I think it's just more going like, well, what do we have at our disposal? I mean, again, even the choice of the Dino cassettes doesn't make much sense. But I mean, the only connection I was looking at going like, okay, I guess because in the Bumblebee movie trailer she sticks a cassette in his stomach.
Exactly.
So
and then probably they're like, you know what cassettes haven't we released in America yet?
Yeah,
or haven't we gotten out there again? You know,
I am definitely awaiting the Hasbro panel, like designer panel, and asking what drove you guys to do this, and if you could continue doing this.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You know, hey, we never got a reissue of Artfire. You know, again, Minerva never got a reissue. You know, the other two Dino cassettes of this set of 4, you know, there's the Headmaster heads. There's so much stuff on the plate here. that could be appreciated. Now, granted, again, hardcore fans and the bootleg community have already got their fix through these already. But I mean, for everyone else, I want people to enjoy these and not have to break the bank. So this is one way to do it. I'm hyped. I can't wait.